Excellent. Coming through loud and clear. So, ladies and gents, it is my absolute pleasure to appoint our next Hall of Fame member to the official Property Entrepreneur Hall of Fame. In this session, I'm going to welcome you to Josh Keegan, who I've worked with for a long time. And Josh, over the last 7 years, has had an amazing experience and journey going through the entrepreneur's journey. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this, we're going to see some of his successes, but also to give you the maximum value, we're going to go into the challenges. So those of you that are starting, systemising or scaling a business can get an insight to some of the challenges you're going to come across and some of the ways to overcome those. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Josh Keegan to the Hall of Fame. How are we doing, Josh?
Very well, thank you, Dan. Thanks for the introduction. It's lovely to be here. I've obviously done a few of these interviews myself with other people. It's actually nice to be welcomed personally.
Yeah, it's good to have you. For those who are listening to this, either on the podcast or the Property Entrepreneurs community on YouTube and haven't had the opportunity to meet you previously, do you want to give everyone just a brief introduction to who you are, where you're based, what you do?
Yeah, of course. So I'm based in the Northwest in Greater Manchester. I've been with Dan now we're working with Dan now for about 7 years. I own a portfolio of companies, which include the one that people know me for the best is S Property Management, which is a HMO specialist letting agency. And I've kind of taken myself out of that and spend more time now working with entrepreneurs, make their businesses like highly lucrative through my accountancy training. So I was a chartered accountant before I got started for all this. So that's what I do. I specialize in basically finance for property businesses.
Very good. So 7 years is a long time, and it doesn't. Would you say it's been a quick 7 years or a long 7 years?
It doesn't feel like a long time, but if you start delving into what's happened, it's the amount that's happened is it feels like that's been like 20 years of stuff in a very short space of time. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I was thinking about it before this. I was thinking 7 years sounds like a long time. Then when you look at where you were and where you are now, like you've come such a huge way. And if you had the opportunity to do that again in 7 years, you know, we'd all jump at the chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give people a bit of an insight where you were when you started. Where were you when we met about 7 years ago?
So my first day in property. So basically, before I got into property, I was a chartered accountant. So I worked for a big company, BAE Systems, and my corporate career. I've been going for 2.5 years, and that was enough time to get my chartership in management accounting. And I wanted something a bit more entrepreneurial. So I attended one of your, basically I was working with my business partner who was Phil at the time, and he knew you already. And my actual first day in property was spent with him on one of your systems days at the Belfry 7 years ago. So we did that. Then I kind of didn't spend as much time with you as before, but Phil was a big part of it. But then unfortunately, as you know, Phil got quite sick. And that's when I had to kind of step into his role within the businesses and actually take on my place on the board. So there's a bit of an untraditional kind of start there. But in terms of where I was when I got started, it's like I'd done a year working with Phil in business. I had like pretty much no experience doing anything. The only thing I knew how to do was accounting for a huge corporation, which was not particularly valuable. So I had basically no experience, no skills, but me and Phil had got the lettings business to about 30 rooms or so at the time. And that's when he got sick. I had to kind of take everything on and learn how to, it was basically sink or swim. And I had to scale the company. So that's when I became part of Property Entrepreneur, became part of the board and started working with yourself.
So you came into it with a lot of finance knowledge, both experience and academic, qualified accountant, knew how the numbers worked.
Not experience. It was academic. It was very academic. Big companies, like that experience is very academic. It's like you're a tiny cog in a massive machine. It's not particularly practical.
Very good. So you brought that sort of knowledge with you, but you didn't have the property or the business knowledge. 7 years later, coming in with that drive and that knowledge, and the appetite to go, how far have you managed to push it? Where are you 7 years later?
So we scaled the agency's now 370 or so rooms. But we haven't been growing for the last 2 or 3 years, really. We just kind of stopped growing for a bit of time to just focus on the service and what we do. But what I'd say in terms of the agency, like where that's got to, is like we are the market leaders within the Northwest, but the bit that I specialised in that agency is making it really lucrative. So it's a very lucrative, very, very well-run 5-star service. It's just a brilliant business. And I personally chosen not to actually, grow that anymore unless the team want to, which is part of my point. Is that I spend about half a day at the moment, about half a day a week on that company. And that's basically just team management. And I've got a team that kind of run that entire business and operation for me. Throughout that as well, that manages my own portfolio, and I've scaled my own portfolio throughout the last 7 years. And then for the last 2 or so years, I basically became an FD. So ultimate FD is what I spend a lot of my time on now. And that's basically offering FD services to property businesses to basically help them do the same thing that I did, which is take yourself out of the business and make it highly lucrative and highly profitable. Because I went on that journey myself. It's not an easy journey. And that's now what I kind of help people do, if you like. So from a business perspective, I'd say I was the business. I was running around like a maniac. Like, literally had to do everything. Had to recruit, team management. Like, it was very hard. Very small business becoming a big business or big-ish business. It's very much a lifestyle business with a great team to run that business. Now I focus on stuff that I'm good at and I get excited about and wakes me up. I look forward to doing it every day.
I want to pull out like a key point out of that as well, because a lot of people come on Property Entrepreneur wanting to build the biggest, baddest national portfolio business, which is what we've sort of done with PPN UK. You've carved out a very lucrative niche in a different space, haven't you? With the portfolio of businesses you've built and now the portfolio of businesses you're helping your clients build. It's not necessarily going for that 7-figure business, is it?
No, absolutely not. And I think I'm going to talk about some of the challenges. I think that comes down to definition of success. Like, when I did join Property Entrepreneur, I did think that's what I wanted. I thought like everybody, everyone thinks they want this monster business, this huge 7-figure, 8-figure, crazy business with this 30, 40 people team, this huge office in the city centre. Everyone thinks it. And I think I thought it, but then I got to a space where I could leave my ego at the door and think, what do I actually want here? Like, what do I actually want? I've realized that big businesses come with big problems. I want a 6-figure business, which means you get kind of like a smaller scale business. But for me, the important bit is the margin. So it's like a 6-figure business with a 6-figure margin. Like, that's what I focus on. So for me, it's like, it's as small as it can possibly be with the most possible profit. Like, that is my definition of success. So whenever we do any kind of growth, it's like, well, I'll do it, but it has to be much higher margin than it is now to make it worth it. So for me, that's the way I look at it now. So definition of success now is, I'd say it's 6-figure profit. It's as small as it can possibly be. So you get small problems, and it means you don't really have to do much on it. Whereas, 7 figures, like, it's definitely worth it when you get to a point. But I think that you've got to be, you've got to really want to get there. And I didn't. I thought I didn't.
Yeah, more for those listening. One of the things we bang the drum about on Property Entrepreneur is more revenue doesn't mean more profit. People think grow and grow and grow, turn the tap on and on and on. The reality is, if you can have a well-flowing tap with a bucket and no holes, many times it can be more lucrative than a ginormous 7 or 8-figure top line and a similar potential bottom line. Let's go through a few of the challenges then, Josh, because so many people are going to be listening to this thinking they're just thinking about starting, or they're in the business and it's that noisy period that you talked about. To get from being at a point where we had no experience at all to now having a highly lucrative, highly leveraged, arm's length portfolio of properties, businesses, what were some of the main challenges you came across on that journey?
I think the first one I started, the one I just mentioned, it was my own definition of success. So I think for the first 3, like Property Entrepreneur, every year we set we go through autumn, we have 3 months to think about like what is it that we're actually looking to achieve? Like, where do we actually want to get to? Like, what do we personally want? Because what I personally want is going to be very, very different to what you personally want. And everybody's different. But I think I'd say for the first, obviously I've been doing this for 7 years now. First 3 or 4 years, I can honestly say like I was young as well. So I'm only 31 now. When I was doing this, I was 24, 25. So it's like, it was quite hard. You don't know yourself at that age still. But I was setting my goals, my targets, everything based on kind of what I wanted to tell other people, or what I wanted to, tell my mates at the pub, or what I wanted to present at the end of the year. So you guys all saw it. And the reality was, I was probably building a lot of the stuff I did in the early days, was just setting targets and goals, which were not actually something I wanted to achieve, something I thought sounded good or might be good, but it wasn't actually really what I wanted. I think it's only in the last couple of years where I feel like I know myself enough to know what I actually want and what I don't want, and not have fear of missing out because I'm not doing something that somebody else is doing. I think that definition of success has just been massive. Like, knowing what it is. There's kind of two elements to it. One was 2 years ago, I came up with the definition being to just literally, as simple as it is, to wake up energized and excited. It's like, that's all, that is my definition of success, to wake up energized and excited. That's all that matters. And now, as we kind of talked about, it's definitely flipped from a business perspective to be much more small business, high margins, small problems, and small amount of time. Like, that's really is the kind of where I've got to with it. And it's now I've got that clarity. Like, life is so much easier to actually do what I want to do.
And pulling out of that, like, obviously age, you'd like to think that age would be a good, not excuse, but a good reason to justify that mindset, because it sounds bonkers. The reality is, a lot of people listening to this live that life. They live by what we call life by comparison on Property Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's the highlight reel of Facebook, it's fame, it's celebrity, it's all of these things. But when you actually dig deep and go introspective, your life by design of what you actually want, when you close down all the stuff that nobody, that doesn't actually matter, it's very, very different. So would you say you found that and you've got that now?
Yeah, I think that the flipping perspective, which I see people still not doing, it's the same as business. A business, money, it's all just a mechanism. It's basically like it's something to do to achieve something else. So like, when people are kind of coming on going, I want this monster business, I want to walk into this office and feel great about the fact I've got 40 people or whatever. It's like, that's not what you're doing it for. My opinion is you're doing it for what that gives you or what that gets you. So if you can be really clear on what that's going to get you, same with money. Like, if you're going to earn some money, right, what's that going to get you? Like, what are you going to get for that? So it's like there's
a clear point there, though, because that's not actually what the case is it? That's what it means for you. It's like, why are you having an office full of 40 people? Because you want to make £500,000 a year. That's not normally why people do it. They normally do it because it's ego driven.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, people who, like me, who built a big business, I wasn't really interested in the money. I was interested in the journey, the self, proving it to myself, proving it to my friends, my family, going out and building something, because I just had that burning desire, I had to do it. Whereas for you, you realise that actually what you want is a good, solid, arm's length, 6-figure income, and it's not necessary to have a 7 or 8 figure top line to get a 6-figure bottom line.
Exactly, and like you've alluded to it as well. Like, we both know people that have got double or triple the amount of revenue that some of my businesses have, that are making just far less profit, and some of them are actually loss making. So it's like, it's that skill set is just, yeah. I think that element there is like, when the ego's driving your bottom line suffers. But when you're kind of being very strategic and going, right, well, I need to extract this amount. So you build your business around, I want this lifestyle, I want this car, I want this house. So I need to extract this amount, and you just build your business out around that. That business just becomes a mechanism. Life becomes a lot easier then.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole thing of, why are you actually doing it?
Yeah.
And also, is it a P&L business or is it a balance sheet business? Because if you look at Amazon's, Deliveroo's, they're burning hundreds of millions of pounds a year, but the balance sheet value is going up. So at some point, they're going to float, they're going to IPO, they're going to exit. It's all of those things coming together. So that's a great first one, is life by design, is, doing things for the right reasons, why you actually want to do it, and then going out and doing it purposefully to do that, rather than chase what everyone else is doing. What other challenges did you have along the way?
This one will be, I'm not saying I've solved this now, but I'm definitely a lot better at it. And I know you've probably never solved this one, but we're working on it. The endless to-do list. It's like, that to-do list is, particularly in the early days, was relentless. Like, it was actually relentless, to a point where for the first 2 or 3 years of doing all this, my head was just always in a place where it was just basically going to explode. You just look at your to-do list and you go, I just can't get this done. I just don't know how I'm going to do this. And it was all like, particularly in the early days, I say as well, it was all had to be done. There was nobody else that could do it. So I'd say, like, one of the biggest challenges was getting to a point where, like, now when I wake up, like, my to-do list it's pretty short, but it's high value stuff. Like, it's short, it's high value, and it's important, but it's not urgent. So that means that if I don't do it, if I just, didn't come into the office for 5 days, it wouldn't push the business forward and do what I want to achieve, because it's, so I wouldn't do the business development side of it, but it doesn't really matter for the day-to-day operations of the team. So yeah, it's getting yourself away from the day-to-day operations. Everything on your to-do list is urgent, to quite a small, high value, to-do list that comes in the business. I'd say that's 4 years worth of work to kind of get 3 or 4 years worth of work to kind of get to that space.
Can we tell the PA story in here?
Which what the yeah yeah. So do you want me to tell it or do you want to tell it?
Assuming just make sure we're on the same page before I unnecessarily.
No. I know what you're going to say. Yeah, let's go for it.
It was just basically the prompt of, even on the blueprint, which is the first day we ever meet anyone on Property Entrepreneur, we say every single person needs an assistant. And for some reason, and they're pay as you go, 0 rated salary, they're just there when you need them, no cost, no risk. But for some reason, people don't listen to us and don't do it. How long, I was banging that drum for you for a little while. How long was it before you actually listened to me?
Probably about two or 3 years.
And how was it when you actually did it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. It was life changing. And now now I've gone from a place of having a couple of virtual assistants to so VAs like international VAs. Then now to had a PA for a little bit, and now I have an EA. And I'd say, yeah, it's money well. It's just money well spent. It's like that. Could you
imagine a life without them now?
No, not at all. In fact, she was a little bit sick last week, so she was kind of like, even when she was sick, like she's a powerhouse, like she was still picking stuff up. But I felt stressed. I was really stressed because just out of all of these things, which I would normally just like bat off my to-do list, just go, right, can you do this just through voice notes or whatever. And like I just felt really like my head was spinning a little bit because I just had so many little things that I needed to do, and all stuff I literally hate doing, like ring up anyone. To find out how a mortgage is going.
Ringing anyone up.
Ringing up. Yeah, phone calls. I can't stand it. Like just ringing up my solicitor to find out what's happened with a property purchase. Like who's my solicitor? I don't know. How do I find their number? I don't even know. Like, and all that stuff. I got stressed by it. So I'd say, yeah, getting a personal assistant or somebody who can do that. You are right. It's a no-brainer now. It's like anywhere from £3 to £20, £25 an hour you can spend. And like, depending on the skill level, and it's all, it all works like that. I think learning to, there's a big difference between spending time and investing time. This has been the biggest thing for me. So spending time spending time would be... It's
wasted. It's just you spent it, you've lost it. There's no value to it.
But it's so easy to flip a spend to an invest. So spending time would be filling out a mortgage form, going, right, I need to fill out a mortgage form to buy this property. Investing time is recording yourself filling out the mortgage form, adding all of the details onto a spreadsheet so they're there for the future. And then next time a mortgage form comes along, okay, hi, Bryony, can you fill this out for me? Here's all the details on how to do it. Big difference. And it's just the case of flipping on the video record function. I did that for like 4 years. Like literally everything I did, it was mental. Like just record. And if you go into like, I wouldn't, it would look it would look nuts for anyone else that saw it. But if you went into like all the ops guys and stuff, I've got videos for the most stupid, like simple things, but I just never wanted to do it again. So I did that for such a long period of time. And that meant that moving forward, it just became easy to delegate. So I think ending the endless to-do list was a big challenge, but I'd say it took time, but it's the best use of time ever.
Without that, completely agree. A couple of bits to pull out of that. So there's a couple of mindset shifts that you get on Property Entrepreneur as you go through the levels. And I've done a few of these Hall of Fame interviews, and this is probably one of the best. What Josh has just raised here about getting a PA, getting away from the to-do list, is without a doubt one of the most valuable things, or it's not even valuable, the crucial things to start to level up. One of the mindset shifts we encourage is to go from what you've got to do on a daily basis, not even what or when. What have I got to do? When am I going to do it? This to-do list, from what and when to who. So it's like, right, not when am I going to do this or what I'm going to do. It's more who's going to do this. And the top of your to-do list every day should be, what can I delegate today? And start to give that to your PA, your VA, your EA, and just, that's high value task. Question for you, Josh, because this is something that I definitely struggled with when I went through that, is what that enables you to do is shift from the urgent to the important. And the urgent gets done by pure adrenaline, up early, head down, beast mode, bang, bang, bang all day. And it makes you feel good at the end of the week because you've beasted it, but it's not necessarily high value. When you switch to important, you then have these deeper work projects, these business development tasks, but they don't have that urgency and they're not sitting there screaming at you. Do you ever struggle because you no longer have the urgency on it? Do you struggle to do the important because you can't leave it till tomorrow?
Yeah, I think just one point on that before I answer that question is the reason why people struggle is delegation is a skill. And like the reason why it took me so long to do it is there's a big difference between delegation is its own skill set. Me and my brother both got a PA at the same time. We were sharing her, and like came to the end of the week and we were like, well, how are you finding her? And I was like, she's brilliant. And he was like, I think she's terrible. But like, what's happened there? And I said, show me one of the tasks you've delegated to her. And I looked at his task. It was really half baked. It's like, I would have done the same thing as she did. Whereas mine, boom, 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 like all the information she probably needs. So I think that's one of the things that stops you getting out of those. Like you need to learn how to delegate, and it's not easy. In terms of your question about the important, yeah, definitely sometimes stuff shifts. But I think that's where you have to kind of start to really enjoy what you're doing. Like your to-do list, your important work should only be stuff that you actually want to do, you're excited about doing. Otherwise, I find it doesn't work. You just keep putting it off. So I guess that's where I've got to now.
Do you find it with stuff? So I can remember this like vividly, and I do find when I'm not busy, I fall into this trap because you've got to have that flywheel moving. Do you never find it, because it's the getting started, right? You know, you might have a task.
Yeah, 100%.
You would be like writing a new finance model, or for me, it would be like writing a chapter for a book or planning a podcast. And it sits there, and because it's not urgent, it's only important. And no one's got a gun to my head. Once I get started, I'll love it. But it's that. Do you never find that?
For me, like the way I've kind of combated that is just doing it in the morning. Like I'll do anything in the morning. I love it. Like first thing in the office, like just crack on. I'm busy. I got stuff done. It's so quick and productive. It's like I'm like we've got the blueprint in the next few days, and I've been going through trying to get all my slides like finalized and finished. And I've been taking hours over the weekend trying to do it in the afternoon. It came in this morning. It took me 45 minutes. Boom, 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 done. Emailed, sorted, and I'm good to go. So for me, I load my mornings, and I'd say anything after 2-3 o'clock, like it's not. I normally finish it. I stop working, or I just catch up with WhatsApps, or just do. That's where like the stuff that really, if you didn't do, wouldn't be a problem. It happens. But yeah, for me, if it's in the morning and scheduled in, I'll get it done. But if not, like sometimes I'll try and do my content for a week at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday. It's not going to happen.
Set yourself up to fail. Never going to happen. Cool. All right, that's 2. Let's see if we can get another 2 in. What other challenges have you had?
I call this one the black hole.
Okay, go on.
So I think we'll go through it. I think you've gone through it. I won't ask though. I know other people that we know have gone through it. It's this moment where you realise that you've totally neglected all of your financials. You don't know what you're doing. You've got no financial clarity, and you've got yourself into a very, very sticky mess. So that was my experience when I literally in 2000, it's either 2017 or 2018, I can't remember, literally doubled the size of our letting agency, went through this big campaign, we doubled in size, we took on I think it was like 70 rooms in one summer, and we were at 50 rooms or 60 rooms before that, so it's literally doubling in size. It was mad, like absolutely mental, absolutely crazy, like 3 months, recruited, like had to bring on sales team members, had to sell like in the summer season. It was the right time to do it. And I remember I had a conversation with you at the time. We were like, should we do this? And you were like, well, it is the season if you're going to do it. So like, brilliant, let's just go for it. We did 3 months. We did our summer. It was crazy. We were on a retreat to go away at the end. And we actually weren't, like, my accountant at the time sent through our P&L. We're actually losing money. I was like, we thought this was going to save the company. We're actually losing money. And then for the next, I'd say 18 months to 2 years, we realized we just created a huge black hole in all of our finances just by not fully understanding how the numbers work, the accounts, the client accounting. And yeah, we spent 2 years like on just sorting out an absolute mess. We had no financial clarity. We had like integration for company to integration of company. It was complicated. It was messy. So yeah, we had 2 years just to sort out a huge mess from a financial perspective. So that was easily one of the biggest challenges I've ever had. And it was like, yeah, that was tough, like really, really tough. And I think it's just that total neglect, and then getting financial clarity when we created such a big company with such a big mess was very, very difficult.
I know from working with the hundreds or thousands of property entrepreneurs we've had through the program, and you now obviously help people to get out of that black hole. What percentage of entrepreneurs would you say get caught in that space?
like majority. I think if you can't answer this question, if I said to you, can you show me an accurate balance sheet, and you say no, you're in that space.
Yeah,
If you can't show me an up-to-date accurate balance sheet, you're in a black. Like you don't know what your numbers look like. You've got no idea.
Everybody listening to this is going to either be in that position. I suspect the majority of people are going to be in that position or have been in it, and it's basically when they're living off the bank balance rather than the P&L. So is there cash in the bank? Can we survive another month? And they're living sort of hand to mouth. That's the storm phase that we talk about in business. You find out you can do HMOs in the norm phase. You then grow it aggressively in the storm phase where everything's chaos. You then move it into the norm phase. And then once it's settled down, you can finally crank the handle and move it into that bottom line time, which is that perform phase. We've definitely been through that cycle. I think the good thing is we've always invested in our back office at the beginning, because I had that experience with a clothing company in 2000 when I was about, 19, 20. So I learned really young. So then when I got into property, I had a bookkeeper, I had an FD, and got around that. For those people who've got themselves into that hole and they haven't yet got out of it, what would you, obviously you do this for people now, what would your biggest words of advice be to get them to start pulling the socks up?
There's two things. Just one, like you said, just get it. It's like the first thing you sort out. It's not the last. Like, so at the moment, we just created a new company in the last few weeks, and it's like that's all set up. That's good to go. We've got zero. We've got an outsourced finance team. We've got a separate bank account. Like, that's all done and dusted. So that's one element. The second thing I'd say is, all's good when the sun is shining. Like, the reason why people get into this mess is that when you're growing, you've got more like revenue just constantly hitting that bank account. So revenue just keeps coming in. So any kind of pitfalls or any holes, the revenue comes in, another invoice. So it works. As soon as you stop growing, this is exactly what happens to us. That's normally where these kind of problems come to light. So you just need to just be really aware of that, and just be aware if you're on this journey now where you grow, you can't see what the problem is. Like, it's when you stop, that's where that will all kind of come to light, and it just takes years to sort out. So just don't get yourself into that mess. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
There's no value.
For those who've got the opportunity to start it from the beginning, I'd say my biggest word of advice there would probably be, and this is not like a sales pitch for Josh, but is there's certain, when we talked earlier about the difference between spending time and investing time, it's the same with money. I genuinely think money that's spent on PAs, bookkeepers, accountants is money invested. And I think I've got £100,000 finance team in the office, probably more than that. I would say they earn me more than that by having accurate books, making sure invoicing is done correctly, rent control. Like, we've got millions of pounds worth of rent, but it's all run well. If someone was going to go and start spending £1,000 a month on a bookkeeper or a part-time FD, I guarantee them it would make them more than that by having that clarity and that control.
It would as well. Like, the second point I was going to say before, which I forgot, was all of this. Well, there's two things. One is, if you go back to my kind of definition of success, I believe the financial element is the main reason you're doing this. So why would you not make sure that's your scorecard? Like, that's the whole point of all this. Imagine if Warren Buffett told you he didn't look at his returns on his shares. You'd be like, that's balmy. Like, why were you buying shares? Like, that'd be crazy. So, like, the fact that most entrepreneurs don't know what their P&L looks like, or they think they know, but they don't. Like, the reason I got into this world is I was working with people on just a mentorship basis, and one of the first conversations I'd say is like, where do we want to get to financially? And they go, right, I want to get £5,000 a month. I'd say, well, what are you at now? They'd say, well, it's about this property's this property's this, and I think that's about 1,500. I go, okay, cool. And they go, but it's weird. Like, there's never much money in the bank account. Like, we can't get our head around it. And it's like, okay, cool. So let's get clarity first, and let's start from there. And that's the whole journey I've gone on to get here. But one of the things is, well, there's two bits of additional advice. Your virtual assistant is not the person to do this for you. Like, they might be able to do some of the heavy lifting, but you do need some expertise in this. So that's normally a finance manager level at least. And you can get these people on £50 an hour, and they'll probably do an hour and a half for you every month, and it's money well spent.
My holding company is £60 a month. That's it. And for my finance manager, £60 a month.
You got a finance manager, maybe a few hours of bookkeeping. That's all you need.
And then a bit of bookkeeping to do the admin.
It's perfect. And the only other thing I'd say, well, I've got so much to say. Your tax accountant won't do as well for you. You'll get overcharged if you speak to your tax accountant. They will charge you at tax accountant's rates to do a very low junior job for you. So you need to make sure you split it out. But also, like the finance function is always important, and it's never urgent. So it just means as an entrepreneur, you will never give it the time it needs. So I'd always encourage this to be outsourced. So you've got yours in-house, which is brilliant, but it's a function. You've got team members, you've got heads in there. I would encourage most people to actually outsource this to a company that's just going to make you're important, they're urgent. So I would say do that, because if you don't do that, and I tried to do this for years with everything internally, all that happened was we just missed reviews, we didn't get the numbers, and it just fell apart because we're just a high growth business. You need to have somebody that's just focused on it, that can just solely focus on producing those numbers for you, external to your business. That would be massive.
To boil that down, one of the things we sound property entrepreneurs, even if you're a qualified bookkeeper or you own a bookkeeping company, you should still not do your own books. It's one of those things that has to be done and needs to be done by somebody else. You just want that report on the 5th working day of the month. Anyway,
I'm a qualified accountant. I don't do them. I don't get anywhere near them.
Exactly. It is not a good use of your time. And probably just to distinguish between those roles, to make sure no one was confused, you've got the in sort of working it up. You put, well, in fact, I don't know which way you layer it. I'm assuming what Josh's structure is the same as mine. Is we'll have a head of finance or a finance director or a finance manager who basically does your budgets, your budgets, your planning, your reporting. Behind them is a bookkeeper who does all of the transactions, the reconciliation, things like that. And then quarterly or end of year, you have an accountant or tax advisor who does all your strategy and structure to minimize your tax. Is that the same thing you're saying, Josh?
Yeah, I'd add one more layer onto it. So the layer we add is finance assistant. So for most companies that I work with, finance assistant is the only person in the actual business. They're doing the operations. They're like paying people from your bank. They're doing like the liaison with Barclays because there's an issue, credit control, all that kind of stuff. Then everything else is external. You have your bookkeeper, your finance manager, then your tax accountant. And then the next level is FD, like if you want it. And FD, I believe, is much more about context. So a lot of entrepreneurs, they get all these reports and like, oh, great, you made this amount of profit, or your balance sheet looks like this. Yeah, but most of those people aren't very good at saying, right, well, this is what we need to do to get there, or this is what we're going to change structurally to juice more profit out of it. And that's what I do. That's the FD role, which kind of goes, there you go, here's the context, and here's how we're going to turn this into a profitable business. So that's my bit.
Yeah, like the strategy element. Anyone who's interested in that, reach out to Josh on like Facebook, Instagram. What's your email for Ultimate FD, Josh?
Josh@ultimatefd.co.uk.
Reach out to Josh. I highly recommend it. I've seen exactly the results he's got for some of our board members. He's doing a great job. So reach out to him if you're interested in that capacity. Right, Josh, let's get one final challenge and then let's get some top tips.
Yeah, I've actually just changed the challenge I'm going to talk about. So I think the fourth one for me would be, and I know you struggle with this as well, is balance. So as entrepreneurs, you talk about the pendulum swing. It's like you're either really relaxed, you're on holiday doing nothing, or you're working all day, 5 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night, and you're on the verge of burnout. And I think I've gone through this kind of journey of balance like a number of times. I think it's one of the challenges that always comes back up. I've just had a baby. So about 10 weeks ago yesterday, I had my first child. And I even found it with this, like I went through a phase of like not starting work till 10, finishing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And that was working really well. But now we've got into a bit more routine. Like I do really enjoy working. I'm just like, right, I'm going to get to the office a little bit earlier. Last week, I was just getting in the office at like 8 a.m. and then going back home and working till 8 or 9 in the evening. I was like, what's just happened? Like, how have we just flipped from this real relaxed lifestyle entrepreneur to then going back into this zone as well? So I think balance is something that I'm always wrestling with. It's like you have a productive day in the office, but then you don't do as many steps as you want, or you socialize too much, and then you don't sleep as well because you drink too much in the evening. Then you feel knackered for the rest of the next day. So I think, particularly in the startup phase, in that whole journey, balance was really difficult, and it was really hard to find the social time, the work time, the exercise time. And normally something was suffering at the result of everything else. So I think that was really difficult for a number of years. And I'd say I'm only kind of getting to a place now where I'm starting to be better on that front.
Here's a question for you, because I know we've gone through the balance blueprint before of like, what is balance? One of the sentiments in there is it's not necessarily what you're trying to achieve. What do you think balance is actually where you want to get to? It's the same as like awareness, ultimate Buddhist awareness, like where you actually could go and be like a monk and live in the mountains and, you know, live off nothing. It's like, is that actually this concept of balance? Is it actually what we want?
I want to be happy. And I think when you're out of balance, you're probably less happy. So when you're working all day and you start to feel, like we've talked about before, when work starts to feel like work, I think that starts to diminish happiness. When work feels like play and you just love it and you finish at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you've had a really productive day, you go home, you see your family, then you have some really wonderful family time, then you do nice of exercise, you feel good because you've done a run and you get to bed early, you have really lovely sleep, you wake up the next day and do it again. That's happiness. Like and everyone's balance is different. Like for me, probably a good day is like being highly productive for like 4 to 6 hours and then going back to spending time with my family. And I think it's, when I'm doing like I was doing last week, where work wasn't optional because I had to get stuff done, and I'm working into the evening and I'm kind of a bit ratty with my family and kind of not the same, don't want to eat dinner with them, so I want to crack on. I think like that's where I'm not balanced and I'm not as happy as I'd like to be. So I think if you think about balance being like the mechanism, like what's the objective? It's to have a level of happiness. So it's like it's finding that balance which gives you that maximum return on that, you know, feeling good but being happy and being present.
Yeah, I think it's the best analogy I can think of is the middle lane. Like the slow lane is boring. You know, Miss Daisy in the slow lane, nothing exciting going on. We would just get bored. We don't live in the slow lane. The fast lane is a million miles an hour. You're going to catch speeding tickets at best. At worst, you lose your license, like burnout. We don't want to stay there for too long. Aim of the game is to stay in the middle. And it's, I think, as we get older and we get more mature and we get more experience, it's trying to learn from those mistakes to not, because if you think about stress and pressure being a good thing as an entrepreneur, because it gets things done, it gets you excited. Good stress, like to use your words, is where you really enjoy it. Like you're eating your meal and you're stuffing your face because you love it so much. That's great. Burnout is where you just lose your appetite and you're like, I'm not doing this anymore. I said to Josh last week or 2 weeks ago, that's it. I'm not doing it anymore. I've had enough. Like, I'm retiring next year. And Josh said, yeah, Dan, I've known you for like 7 years. And this time of year, every year, you say the same thing. And I went away and reflected on it a lot. I was like, you're so right. And I think my issue is every year I become more resilient. I become more leveraged. And when I take on these bigger challenges, they're now so compounded up. When I do hit that peak, that hairpin in the summer season, it's like, it's worse. It does get worse. But then obviously, you know, the experience is greater and the rewards are greater. So
the fast lane's addictive. The fast lane's addictive. Like the fast lane's so tempting and addictive. You can just see all those cars whizzing past you. Oh, that looks really exciting. And it's great to overtake or like just, you know, going there for a few minutes. But then it's just, it's hard to get yourself back into that lane, that middle lane when you've jumped into it.
And on Property Entrepreneur, we run the year in the 4 seasons. So summer is race season, foot to the floor. That's where we are now. We've done the first 6 weeks of summer. We're on our way back to autumn now. And it's like, by the end of it, the tyres should be shredded. The car should be steam coming out of the bonnet if you're going for a big race, like if you're going for a championship season. And that's definitely where I am. And my lessons I've learned this summer, we then have 3 months in autumn to go and sit down and be like, right, what bit of that was good? You know, some of it's always like, it was worth it. You know, the juice was worth the squeeze. Other times you're like, I'm never doing this again. It's like taking all that on board. And then again, writing your life by design for the following year. I think that's a banging one. It's definitely not one I've not cracked. My life by design gets better every year, but my ability to manage that stress is, or my ability to not go silly, my ability to go to the buffet and have a balanced meal in the summer is not, I've not cracked it. It's still all or nothing for me. And then
it's addictive. I think it's addictive. I think that's the problem. And that's the challenge.
Yeah, it's addictive. I think it's like carnage as well. It is like, it's not physically. I was, without exaggerating, I was up at 2:30 the other morning last week before Property Entrepreneur Week. And I was just like, had so many things on my head I needed to get done. I'm just like, this is not healthy. This is not good. But I couldn't go back to sleep. So I thought I might as well get up and just get some stuff done. But anyway, we're all on the same page. I think, again, that's another really, really great one. Right, finish off. A few top tips. So people have got a clear idea the journey you've been on now. And I would say the key successes I would pull out is your personal development, like how you've understood it's not all about big numbers and smashing it out of the park. It's about life by design. Second thing is about how important finance is. You've brought your entrepreneurial experience and your academic finance together to build a really, really good, solid finance model. And then third is highly leveraged and highly lucrative. Most people should be making six figures. You don't need to make seven-figure revenue to make six-figure profit. You can take 100 grand home on £250,000 top line if you know what you're doing. What top tips would you get for people who want to follow in your footsteps and achieve some of the things that you've achieved?
So number one would be team first, business second. So whenever you're looking to start something new venture, new anything, or thinking about like, how am I going to do this? It's like, who's going to do this for me? And now I think about that as being the first thing as opposed to the second thing. Before it'd be like, I've got this great idea. Like the stuff I do, Ultimate FD is probably a bad example because I do deliver that myself at the moment. And I love doing it. But Fast Track Financials were actually they do these consultancy packages. I built all of the models now, and now someone can run that for me. So it's like, right, cool. It's not just thinking, right, am I going to do this forever? It's like, right, I'm going to systemize this in some way, and how do I get the team into this? And then I'll grow the business. So that's one of the first things is like, yeah.
In M&A, that's all we talk about. Like when I'm buying companies, selling companies, doing deals for other people. I was having dinner on Friday night in Leeds with like a very big player in the field. And all we're talking about when we're looking at deals is the management team.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, it's hard to think about that because you think, well, I'm the leader, I'm the manager. It's like, you're not, you're the investor or you're the entrepreneur. It's like, really, who is running the business?
Yeah.
When you can switch that mindset.
I don't want to deliver on anything. It's like, even if I like it, like there's some things I enjoy, but the majority of it is like someone else can probably do it better than me. It's not where I add the value. So it's just, but I think it is like a mindset shift because you have to kind of put your money where your mouth is. You have to have a bit of confidence. If you're going to recruit, if you're going to write, I'm going to grow this business this year. Great. I'm going to buy loads of deals this year. Cool. If I was going to buy loads of deals this year, I'd say, right, I'm going to get somebody that will work in the office and source for me and pay their salary until I find my first deal. And that mindset, and it's like, there is a sunk cost. There is a risk there.
It's not a beginner strategy. You can only do that. You can only do M&A if you've earned your stripes the hard way by learning.
Yeah.
You really need to understand how the business works before you can get other people to run it. Cool. Yeah. That's a great top tip. Next one.
What do you actually want? I think, like we talked about definitions of success. Like if you actually nail this, you'll be a very happy, very fulfilled individual. If you can actually work out what you actually want, take away ego, take away what your parents spoke to you about as a kid, take away any money psychology issues, take away, a fast car that you want to show off to your friends. If you can literally say, this is what I actually want, and not be influenced by everyone else and actually achieve it. It's making my hair stand up and then talking about it. If you actually decide it and do it, you'll lead a very happy, very privileged and very successful life. And I'd say I'm on that journey, but I'm still not 100% there. There's still definitely little things that get in my way, little egotistical, little elements, but the last couple of years, it's been transformation on that part. And it's like the feeling you have around life, around business, around everything you do is magic.
And it's one of the hardest questions you'll ever ask yourself. People are like, what do you want? And your conscious will say six-figure income, family business, whatever. That's not actually what you want. You've got to go deep into like your programming, your conditioning, your expectations. It's a lifelong practice to understand what you want and when you want it. Like, I don't know.
Change.
I honestly, mine changes every year. I had supercars, then I lived on a narrowboat. It's like, every time you figure out that was a bad move, that was a stop, not a stay. Whereas that frugal hedonism, low overheads, that really is a good thing for me. And it's like, I still don't, nobody knows the answer, I don't think.
But you do need to go, one of the biggest things I've learned is that you do need to go to extremes to find the middle ground. So you've done your supercar, you've experienced that lifestyle, then you've gone through hedonism. Those are two different extremes. Now you'll probably find somewhere nice in the middle that you actually really appreciate. So whenever you diet or whatever, like go overeat for a week, then basically starve yourself of food, and then you'll find this middle ground where you go, right, this is actually what works well for me. And it's like that's part of the process, I think.
Ironically, that is one of the things I do know. When certain things we do like and want, certain things we don't. One of the things I know I absolutely love is extremes. Because I'm like, not necessarily an adrenaline junkie. I'm like, if there's a challenge that somebody thinks you can't do, And this is not an ego-driven thing. It's just like a self-competitive thing. Can I run a marathon? Can I do a weight cut? And it's like there's no ego element. Well, maybe there is. Maybe my subconscious says there is. But yeah, that's one of the things I like is the challenge. I love the thrill of the chase. The destination's an anticlimax. Like I had a conversation with a few team members recently. Getting to the destination is an anticlimax. The reason is that's not where the joy is. The joy is in the journey.
Process, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Final top tip?
We've obviously alluded to this throughout, but you need to be fluent in finance. Like everything now that I do is talking about margin, it's talking about bottom line, it's talking about like, you know, business models. That's all of this is. And I think this is all businesses. It's like once again, it's a means to an end. It's basically to earn X amount of money, which is going to give you this lifestyle, which is the lifestyle you want. So it's not like an afterthought. You should be literally fluent in it. And every decision you make, the reason why people struggle with decisions in their businesses is because they're emotionally led. If you start making financial decisions, life becomes a lot easier, a lot clearer, a lot more clean cut, and then you'll actually get what you want out of your companies.
Yeah, a good sort of mantra to close that on is the best people to start companies and create companies, entrepreneurs. Yeah. The best people to run companies are managers, and the best people to own companies are accountants. It's like they're very different skill sets. They're very different stages of the journey. And what Josh said earlier, you know, he'll enjoy being with the team a bit. He'll love the novelty of it, but not the normality of it. We're not built for that. We're built for different things. So it's understanding the phases in the journey and the cycle. Yeah. Josh, that was one of the best Hall of Fame interviews I've done. Some of those nuggets in there are absolute game changers and definitely got my brain thinking. I'd like to congratulate you on everything that you've achieved in the last 7 years. It's genuinely been a pleasure to work with you and see you go from where you had no business experience and no property experience up to what you've done today. It's genuinely, you deserve all the awards you've got. And of all the people that I know on the board and wider, when it comes to like the finance side of things and running a highly lucrative, highly leveraged business, the Zest Group and the Zest Property Management, I've shared this with you previously, I've seen hundreds of agencies behind the scenes, and there's not a single one in the country that I've seen that's run anywhere near as well as yours financially. So congratulations for that. Hats off. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. It's my pleasure to introduce you to it and to work with you ongoing. For those who want to reach out to you, do you want to give people just some touch points where they can come find you?
Best thing to do is just follow me on Facebook. Just type in Josh Keegan, follow me on there. Or if you want to email Josh at ultimatefd.co.uk, and then happy to help.
Very good. Any closing sentiments, final business?
No, it's just been an absolute pleasure. Like obviously I've only ever done business with yourself for the last 7 years while I've been in business. I think Property Entrepreneur has been absolutely massive in all of this, and it's definitely been on my own journey. But yeah, thank you for all the support. Thank you for the interview, and yeah, I look forward to working with you for longer in the future.
Absolutely, it's been a roller coaster of a journey. We won't paint it as anything else, and I don't think we'd have changed a thing. So congratulations again. Welcome to the Hall of Fame, and Josh Keegan, thank you very much. Hugely appreciate it. Take care. Cheers.